We have Kira Phillips standing by along with our Devin Dwyer. And guys, right when this wrapped up, the ranking member, Devin Nunes, called this Act 1 of today's circus. I felt, after watching this for 3 days, the tone today got a little more vicious. We saw the White House get a little more aggressive. Republicans were more aggressive in questioning people like Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. But my question to you guys, what were some of the key moments for you that you thought maybe the tone is changing in that room?
Well, let's start with the circus, Tom, because right behind us here, as we've been listening to you and the guests talk, a circus is unfolding down here along Independence Avenue. The hearing room is just over here at Longworth behind us. There are dozens of protesters with signage we didn't see at all last week. Impeach Trump. In fact, there's a mock graveyard on the Capitol lawn back here with gravestones signifying the Ukrainians who died because of the lack of military aid or that was held up. So, Kira, I would certainly say
maybe
that this
is... Why don't we step out and Rudy...
If we can see it, but
Joey,
this is a circus atmosphere all day today. I don't know if Joey can grab some of this picture behind us. But to your point, Tom, yeah, absolutely. This has been a much more pointed, I think was the word Mary Bruce used, emotional, tense, I would say, and this afternoon.
Did it really, do you think, move more toward impeachment? I mean, there was tension, there was intense discourse, but really, did we move any closer toward a valid argument toward impeachment?
Yeah, these two witnesses really just seem to corroborate the consensus view that we've seen in our own ABC News Ipsos polling, that most people think what happened on this call, including the two witnesses today, was wrong, unusual, inappropriate. But there's still, Kira, a lot of divide over whether this is impeachable, and I don't know whether this testimony actually advanced that narrative.
And with regard to talking about Vindman and his credibility, let's look at this exchange between Vindman and also the Dems lawyer Daniel Goldman, just talking about these bullet points. Apparently he had prepared for the president to go over on that call with Zelensky. Well, apparently those bullet points were never tackled. Let's discuss after we listen to this back and forth.
I want to go to the White House readout from the April 21st call. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you see the highlighted portion where it says root out corruption?
Yes.
So in the end, this readout was false, is that right?
Maybe that's a bit of it's not entirely accurate, but I'm not sure if I would describe it as false. It was consistent with U.S. policy, and these items are used as messaging tools also. So a statement that goes out, in addition to reading out the meeting itself, is also a messaging platform to indicate what is important with regards to U.S. policy.
So it is a part of U.S. official policy that Ukraine should root out corruption, even if President Trump did not mention it in that April 21st phone call. Is that right?
Certainly.
And he also did not mention it in the July 25th phone call. Is that right?
Correct.
So even though it was included in his talking points for the April 21st call, and presumably even though you can't talk about it for the July 21st call, it was not included in either. Is that right?
For the April 21st call.
He did not mention it in either, rather.
Correct.
So when the president says now that he held up security assistance because he was concerned about rooting out corruption in Ukraine, that concern was not expressed in the two phone conversations that he had with President Zelensky earlier this year. Is that right?
Correct.
And I think, Devin, you and I both agree that was a pretty pivotal moment, because that gets to the heart of the phone call and why Vindman was so concerned and why he went straight to Eisenberg, White House counsel, to say there was something not right about that phone call. He prepped the president to talk about corruption. He says, and we saw by the transcript, the president didn't bring up corruption at all.
Yeah, also goes to the heart of Republicans' defense. I think, Tom, that's one of the headlines for me today, was that exchange. Republicans, the president, have been saying that money was held up. The president wanted those investigations because he wanted to root out corruption. They keep saying it. That's been their tagline for all of this. And yet, here you have the president's top Ukraine advisor recommending the president bring up corruption in Ukraine on that first phone call. It didn't happen. None of the transcripts transcripts show that the president explicitly talked about a broad effort to root out corruption. I think so. That was a big score for Democrats today. Republicans certainly notched a couple points as well in there, but that was the biggest takeaway for Democrats.
Did you guys also pick up, it seemed like Republicans were poking pretty hard about the chain of command, and that even though Lieutenant Colonel Vindman is a member of the military, he somehow didn't go to his supervisor first. He went to the lawyer first. What do you think the strategy, what do you think Republicans were trying to do there?
You know how I said to Devin, it's sort of like when you don't trust your boss, you go to HR. That's sort of what it appears he did as well, that he had concerns about that phone call. So he decided to go straight to the lawyer and say something was inappropriate. Meanwhile, his boss also went to White House counsel, but not because he had concerns about what was on that phone call. He went straight to White House counsel to say, we better put this transcript in a more
or hide the phone
secret
call.
Or hide the phone call, right, in a more secret, on a more secret server, so little people have access to this. The concern, of course, with that was that there was going to be leaking.
This is just going to be fascinating this afternoon, Tom, because these two people in this HR dispute will testify back to back. So here we have Alexander Vindman telling his side of the story, and then this afternoon, as you've been talking about, we'll have Morrison coming in, sitting down. That is Vindman's boss. They will both get a chance to tell their version of events, and that should be some pretty dramatic testimony.